So let's say they ask you to solve for x in this case for 5 marks. Now, what you shouldn't do is writing 16 in exponential form to base 2 and using the first law of exponents. You are not simplifying anything if you do that. You are only making the equation more and more complicated. So what is the first thing you must do? You have to write 2 to the negative x in positive exponential form. So it's going to be 1 over 2 to the x. So if you say 16 times 1 over 2 to the x, it's actually 16 over 2 to the x. So that's what I'm going to write. So you'll say it's 2 to the x, and then you say plus 16 divided by 2 to the x, then you say minus 10 equals 0. Then from this point, you realize we are dealing with an equation that involves a fraction. And last time we said we hate fractions in this case. Our aim is to destroy the fraction. So we have to multiply every term by the lowest common denominator, which is 2 to the power x in this case. So if you say 2 to the power x times 2 to the power x, you get 2 to the 2x. And if you say 2 to the x times 16 over 2 to the x, you get a solid 16. And if you say 2 to the x times 10, you get 10 times 2 to the x. And you say everything is equal to 0. Then once again, you realize the coefficient here is 2. The coefficient here is 1. And this one does not have a variable. So you think of a quadratic equation. Now we have to write it in standard form and represent it as a quadratic equation. So in other words, instead of me saying 2 to the 2x, I'm going to say it's 2 to the x, which is all squared. And then I say minus 10 times 2 to the x. Then I say plus 16. And this is equal to 0. Then once again, we have to simplify this. So we let k to be 2 to the x. So we say, okay, this means I have k squared minus 10k, and then we say plus 16, and this is equal to 0. Then we have to factorize this quadratic equation in order to solve for k. So factors of k squared, it's k and k. Factors of 16 that add up to 10 can only be 8 and 2. So the bigger number takes the sign of the middle term, but since the last term is positive and they have to add up to negative 10, it means 2 has to be negative as well. So negative 8 minus 2, it's negative 10. And negative 8 times negative 2, it's positive 16. Then from this point, you apply your zero factor law. So k will be equal to 8, or k will be equal to 2. Then you say, what is k? Well, k is actually 2 to the x. And what is 8 in exponential form? To base 2? Well, it's 2 cubed. So the bases are the same. Then you equate the exponents, and then you are happy. Then you come to the second part. You say k is actually 2 to the x, and the exponent of 2, we understand it's 1. So the bases are the same. Then you simply equate the exponents. Do you see that? So the most important thing, you are not going to use the law of exponents in this case, the first law. No, it's going to complicate the equation. Fine stuff. So let's look for something that is a little bit similar to this. A little bit similar to this. We have to make sure you understand the concept so that you can deal with whatever case they present you in the exam. May I please clear my throat? Thank you. So in this case, we have 5 to the power 3 minus x. And then you say minus 5 to the x. Then you say plus 20. And this is equal to 0. So if you look at this one, the first thing we have to do in this case is to reverse the first law of exponents. In other words, before it became this, it was once 5 cubed times 5 to the negative x. And these two, we write them as they are. Then once again, we have to write 5 to the negative x in positive exponential form. So it's going to be 1 over 5 to the x. Now, this is multiplied by 5 cubed, which is 125. So this will be 125 divided by 5 to the x. So I'm avoiding many steps, but please write everything because they say show all your workings. So here you'll have 125 divided by 5 to the x. Then you say minus 5 to the x plus 20. Everything is equal to 0. Then once again, we have an equation that involves a fraction. So we have to multiply every term by the LCD so as to destroy the fraction. Now, if you say the first term multiplied by LCD, which is 5 to the x, you get a solid 125. Now, 5 to the x times 5 to the x, you get 5 to the 2x. And then you say 20 times 5 to the x, it's still 20 times 5 to the x. And everything is equal to 0. Then you want to write this in standard form. So you start with the one with the highest exponent. So it's negative 5 to the 2x. But I want to write it as a quadratic equation. So I say it's 5 to the x, which is squared. And then I have 20 times 5 to the x plus 125. And this is equal to 0. Then from this point, I want to get rid of this negative. So I divide everything by -1 or multiply throughout by negative. It's up to you. So the 5 to the x, which is all squared, will be left positive. This one is now negative. This one as well is negative. And this is what you have. Then once again, we let k to be 5 to the x. So in other words, this is going to be k squared minus 20k. Then you say minus 125. And everything is set equal to 0. Fine. Then we factorize this quadratic equation by opening two brackets. Factors of k squared, it's k and k. and then factors of 125 that add up to 20. It's going to be 25 and 5. Then the bigger number takes the sign of the middle term, and this one has to be positive. So then your k will be 25, or k will be -5. Then you say, what is k? Well, k is actually 5 to the x. What is 25 in exponential form? It's just going to be 5 squared. The bases are the same, so we equate the exponents. Then we come to the last part. We say k is actually 5 to the x, which is equal to -5. Then here we understand there is no value of x, such that if we say 5 to the power that value, we get -5. So it means for this one, unfortunately, we can't solve it on Earth. Maybe if we go to the moon or under the sea, perhaps we can find its solution. But on the ground, no, we can't find a solution for this one. So this brings us to the end of this lovely and wonderful video. So I really hope you enjoyed and that it's gonna help you a lot. Thank you so much for watching.